Hi, I'm Lisanne Miller with W, Cushing and Company, and welcome to March's third Thursday. I hope that you will get this latest issue of Rug Hooking magazine. It's a wonderful issue, beautiful, beautiful cover, absolutely stunning. And it is the start of the same but different. And in this one is the moons, which I'm sure a lot of you saw at Souter. But it features all the moons, same pattern, everybody hooked differently. And this is the first issue of this column that I'm doing. The next one will include Prudence, so stay tuned. And I thank Rug Hooking Magazine for working in cooperation with me. So let's go back to last month when everybody thought I would end up with mud with what we dyed. And we dyed with the leftovers, the salt, everything. So this pile right here, this big pile right here, and then this pile, and all of these nibs, nabs. Look at the beautiful blues with the burgundies, the grays, the browns, everything. This all came out of the pots, and then a little bit lighter bunch came out of the pots, but that's a surprise because that's going to be a background for my rug, and I'll show it to you when we do it. So all of that, all very different. It's a wonderful mix. And even these little nibs and nabs, we even got some real light colored stuff. So look at this. This has purple, yellow, green, blue, everything in it. Great for making stained glass windows. So review that video, and then you can see how to use your salt from cleaning your dye spoons, your leftover dye, your leftover nibs and nabs of wool, and create wonderful, wonderful piles. Today we're going to revisit an old topic. I laughed when I saw the cover of Southern Living because now they have also decided that green is a neutral. So is blue, but green is a neutral. I laughed at that because we knew that a year ago. So I want to revisit it. It's March, it's St. Patrick's Day. You know, there's a lot of wearing of the green and the Celtic. So I want to look at some greens and then what they can match up with. So here we go. Greens come in a variety of flavors. So this, while it's a dark, has a predominant green in it. And you can bring out, this is Sleepy Hollow. There's Sweet Pea, Great Green Plaid. Now Great Green Plaid, you get two different greens that you can use to shade a leaf or in a primitive or even in fine cut. This would shade for you. Here is Green Giant, and this little puppy is reversible. So look at all these shades right in here. They go with Sleepy Hollow. Happen to like Fran's Find. It's a blue-green. It has an eggplant or brown, whichever you put near it, to come out. See, look, we're building a nice little pile here. These are just the textures. And if I was to put bowl of cranberries here, it goes with this, it goes here, it goes here, it goes here. And if you notice, it changes in its intensity. So it would go here because it's got the burgundy, and that looks very nice, very rich together. Here it's a little more intense. It becomes a little more pink, not as burgundy. So it depends upon your intensity of what you want to put by it. But as I move this down the green texture pile, it does change. This is a rich, rich palette, but this also goes, this blue-green. It goes very, very nicely. So these greens are interchangeable with each other. We'll go to the dyes in a minute, but I want to show you Glowworm. Glowworm is a green or a yellow. It is, most people ignore it, but it is a green. It can be a yellow. We use it as a green, as a neutral. It does have a gray to it, but look what happens when you put this to it. It's one color. And if I go with this light pastel shade, it's another color. So don't discount wools that look like this, even though they may have a gray tint. They make a good background. You have highs and lows. It looks like you've mixed wools. You can also mix your size of cut. Don't forget that. You can do a 6 and an 8 and an 8.5, a 6 and a 7, a 5 and a 7, and you'll get a slightly different look, but a beautiful background. And like I said, it goes very well. Now, if I were to put it with this, which is woodland, look how nice that looks. And look at all the greens in woodland, okay? And then you've got burgundy, you've got a blue, and it just gets more intense, but it all goes. So don't discount these types of greens. I think we have a tendency to. This is wasabi. Now, this is a dull olive green, and a lot of you will say, oh, it's too dull. Well, it's really not too dull. It's a great accent for woodland. If you're doing leaves and you need veins and then there's your leaf, then this accents this without detracting from your dyed wool. That's why green is a neutral. It will go with other textures, but it will also go with very, very high intensity dyed wools. And this is just in our texture pile. We got more coming. But if I were to take Deco Orange, and yes, put your sunglasses on, everybody. This is very, very bright. But watch, not as bright when I put it with wasabi. Great for a fall pattern. A little bit more ramped up, but still not as bright with glowworm. And it looks spectacular with sweet pea. Look at that. And then if you added sweet pea and wasabi to these, there you are. Okay? Same thing with the Limo Limamari. The Limo Limamari gets dulled down to an extent or becomes more of a workable fabric if this isn't your normal color palette when you add these to it. So this neutralizes the color. And that's another thing, that if you have these colors and you don't know what to do, you can use these bright colors and they go really, really well. So we're going to put the textures aside for a minute, and I may come back to them. Not really sure, but we'll try to if we have time. We have a lot to go over today. So these, what I will call very bright colors, for me even, Flower Power Pink, Deco Orange, Limo, Limamari. Very bright, but they look like Easter eggs. So if you've got grass to put around those Easter eggs, you may want to do something in the bronze, gold, or green. Okay, we wouldn't use chartreuse. Again, we could go with woodland, the woodland on sparkle. See how that now becomes, this burgundy kind of picks up into here. This isn't as bright. So the dyed wools will also work the same way as textures. Now, this is called Forest. This is one of the dullest dyed wools that we have. And while it's not the greatest, but notice how this turns to be almost a silver gray. So once you know that and you want a more muted palette than this, then you would come over here to Wood Rose, and this is Wood Rose graduated. It goes from the darkest color to the lightest color of Wood Rose. So if I take this away and we take our sunglasses off and we come in here with Wood Rose, look how beautiful they look together. Now this becomes more green. It's not as much as a silver gray. It's more of a green like a forest floor. And this goes really with it for a nice cottage palette. And then you can add in bowl of cranberries and you've got a beautiful start to a palette. So this is how green works as a neutral. And this is Cape Cod Plaid, Old Cape Cod Plaid. Old Cape Cod Plaid to some is burgundy, to some it's teal, but it's actually a neutral. And you can ramp it up to a green or ramp it down to a gray. So if I put this here, it's a little more green. Now, if I were to put Sassy Sage with it, watch what happens. It becomes a silver gray green. And this is Sassy Sage. So there you are. This is a great, if you need to do a border line that you don't want it predominant, if you want a non-predominant border and you have greens and reds and blues, Old Cape Cod Plaid is great. It is really, truly a neutral. And it even goes with the yellow greens. So if I were to take Sassy Sage and add it to this mix, then we have the start of a great palette. Okay, so there's woodland rose, forest, bola cranberry, sassy sage, and they all go together. Beautiful cottage palette. And you can even add in woodland for a spark. So look at your wools. Look at what they're comprised of. See how they work together. It does make a big difference. Now, I can also ramp in with this. This is over-dyed on a texture. This is blue topaz, and this is over-dyed. Now, it dulls this green out. So if I take sassy sage out, the burgundy ramps it up, and it goes very well together. So don't discount things like blue topaz. Things like number 1 blue, which is a nice bright blue that's mottled. These go together. This goes, but look how nice this goes with Amari Jade. Very nice. And you can always bring in, for a small accent, Old Cape Cod plaid. So the green really is a neutral. It really works as a neutral. And this is genuine jade. It's a little deeper. And look how it brings out the blue. And this is genuine jade. So, and you could add genuine jade here, bring this in. Here's another palette for you. And you can always bring in something like glowworm as an accent. So these play together so well that we could sit here for an hour and keep redoing patterns, just different color combinations. I know everybody likes to see that, but I'm trying to give you some unique color palettes and then show you how they work. Now this is a silver gray. It is a graduated, okay? It goes from dark to very light. So it's got a little bit of purple in it. So when I go to, if I want to match a green to it, I'll start with the Amari Jade. That really changes the gray. It changes this. If I really want to tone it down a bit, I'm going to go to Forest. And now Forest turns it down, but it makes it a dull palette. If you're looking for a dull palette, that really works very, very well together. And then again, you can come in with another color in between, like Genuine Jade. Genuine Jade makes it more of a jewel tone with an accent. So these are all just different ways. And for a green to go with silver gray, it works really, really well. If I were to bring back good old Sassy Sage here, good old Sassy's in here a lot, that also goes quite well. So a lot of people don't think to add this color with greens, and it works very, very well. Pastels and greens. Pastels and greens do work. There is green in this pastel, and you can see all the colors in here. So when you have a piece like this that is very light, very mottled, how do you go about matching to it? Well, first I'm going to pick number 1 blue. And then I may pick up some blue topaz, but that kind of dulls it all out. So now I can pick up this green. And that's where I'm going to go back to my bronze green or my yellow green here. Okay. And I'm going to pull that in. Look how nicely that goes. There's the bronze green. We're picking it up. So look at the colors that are in here. Look at it before it's hooked. I know it changes, but they will go with pastels as well. This shows you that every bold color can go with a green. This is Glistening Mountains Majesty. We have red, we have orange, we have purple, we have green, we have gray. And then the green is just intermixed, almost as if it was crackled in, okay, into the crevices, but it goes with everything. And as you turn and look at all of this, you realize that green will go with all of it. Look how nice it goes with the bronze green sitting right here. Or it will even go with the jade green, okay? Or we'll go back to good old woodland over here. You really want to use these as different leaves or different flowers, they all go together. This is the prime example of that green goes with just about every color you can imagine. And even the pinks. Nothing stands out, everything works together. And right here you see how green goes with all of those colors. It is a great example. Now, this is a much softer palette of green, okay? It is much softer. It's got speckles of color all the way throughout. It's got a little bit more towards the gray greens, okay? So I'm going to pull out my pastel again. It goes. It's not the best, but it does go. It could match better. But if I bring back Forest, okay, Forest goes with it as an accompaniment. And I'm going to bring back the Cottage palette. Look at this. I'm going to bring back Wood Rose with its graduation from dark to light. And I can ramp it up if I wanted with Bowl of Cranberries. Goes very, very well. This would also go with browns very, very well. It would go with grays very, very well. Let's bring back the silver gray and show you how that works. So here's the silver gray. And the silver gray works really well between the two. So here we go with dark and light. And look at the colors that are coming out now in the silver gray that weren't coming out before. So a lot of these, this will stand up to textures as well. You could use Franz Find. You could use Sweet Pea in here. Let me grab a Sweet Pea. It's down the bottom. Watch what happens. It all goes. See? Because of the yellow green in between. So they all go together very, very nicely. So when you're looking to augment your stash or add into your stash, don't discount things like this. They have so much in them that you can use them for a lot. Okay? Now, the golds. We all know green and gold go together, but you've got to be very, very careful. Watch the difference. This goes because there's flecks of green and red in there. This is very, look how much this deepens Forest and brings out the yellow in the bottom one. Bottom one is a one of a kind, so it doesn't have a name. So you can see that. You have to be careful with your golds and your greens. Everybody thinks gold goes with green, you know, any gold will go with green. You have to be very careful where you put your golds or what golds you use. Now, if I were to do this with the yellow green, it does work. This softens it, and all of a sudden the red comes out. So golds are very picky with the greens. Don't automatically think they go together. You have to be careful, and a lot of times when I see somebody comes to me with a problem rug, it's the gold has deadened something. So be very careful with the golds that you use around your greens. They do work. It is a neutral. But when I do an intense thing like Genuine Jade, then I can use Kernel Mustard. I can also use 14K. I could use them together. This could be in the rug. This could be a border. This could be part of the rug. If you're doing a floral, leaves, then you have your flower pot here. So be careful what greens you put with golds. They can be very picky. They play together, but you've got to be a little more careful about it. They're like distant cousins. They like each other for a while, then they don't. Now, this is Reflections. It is a pastel. It does have a light green in it. So you can pick up the light green, and you can use something like this with it, the Woodland. This would just be a line or an accent. When you have the gray and the grayish pastel, that's where you also have to be careful what green you put with it. You can ramp it up, or you can also ramp it down into the grays. Now, most people wouldn't have put those two together, but they go together very well, Sassy Sage and Reflections. This is a great accent. This is great for flowers. This can be the leaves. So, but you have to be careful because of this, and it is a gray pastel. Two important things. Boy, been through a lot of wool already. So now I'm going to move these back over like this and like this. And we're going to talk about using them in the rugs, and then we're going to talk about Paisley and greens because everybody likes Paisley. So this is gray greens and blue greens. And I use that in this because this is not a normal color palette for this type of a rug. So I'm using that dusty rose, soft as petals. So I used a real blue-green in here, but I had to create a dimension, and I used a very light blue-green, and then I used a yellow-green, and then a blue-green. I used 3 colors for a reason, so that you can see the leaves. This was Cloud 9, I also fussy cut it to highlight, to draw your attention around it, but I actually used 3 values of green in this small leaf. This would have melded in too much, this brings the dimension in. They go together. People don't think blue greens and yellow greens go together. They go together very well, as you can see here. It created a soft cottage palette, but that is what this rug needed. Okay. So now we're going to go to Perry's Lace and the Joy. Perry's Lace is all purples. And it's purples, it's lilacs, it's got blue-green. So I used sage green, but different values of a sagey pale green, almost to a blue-green, to pick up the purples. This is all nibs and nabs, no wool was cut for this. So overall, because green is a neutral, you don't notice the diamond here is different than the diamond here. The diamond here is different than the diamond here. I didn't go around with the same green. I did the outside. But because the greens play well together and they play well with the purple, green and purple are just fabulous together, and pink, you don't notice it. That's what I mean by I say green is a neutral. You don't pick it out until I point it out. On the Joy, I decided to go with yellow greens pretty much, different values. But then I had to lighten it up. So I lightened it up with a very, very pale green, almost an aqua green, sage aqua green. Again, these greens were all from Nibs and Nabs. So this leaf does not match this leaf. This leaf does not match this leaf. They don't match. This is a yellow green, this is a blue green, this is a dark forest green. But all you see are the green leaves. You see the green in the wreath. That's why it's a neutral. And it goes with the reds, it goes with the burgundy, the creams, the bird. It's the perfect palette to put the other colors on top of. And there are about 15 to 16 different greens that go around here. I just put a big thing of greens on my frame and I hooked the leaves as it came. So as you can tell, they're not all the same as I point them out, but when you look at it, they all look the same. Now here comes the big girl. This is the Burnham Medallion, easy scroll. I think it's the Burnham Medallion. This is the Burnham Medallion. This I wanted to look old when I hooked it. I had a mission on this. I took every green, and I hooked this quite a while ago. I took every green I owned, okay? This was Snake Eyes. I started here with Snake Eyes. I used Paisley, and I'm going to talk about Paisley very quickly because I think our next April is going to be continuous on Paisley. I used Paisley to set a silhouette edge to the green, my staircase to the green. When I went out here, and it's also my constant, but it's not the same piece of Paisley all the way through, although your eye doesn't pick that up. And then I put purple greens, yellow greens, light greens, dark greens, anything I had. And I put it all in here as if it were an antique rug, okay? And that's all I had in my cottage along the coast of Maine, hooking by oil light. And I just hooked. I hooked in shapes. I hooked in echo. I hooked whatever came to my mind. I never changed what I pulled. If I had a big block of blue-green, so be it. Then I had a big block of yellow-green that happened. Then I have a purple, green and purple. And I hooked it that way because they all go together. It is the perfect one to show you that every green will play. And this is how it might have looked or it might have faded to. I did use a gold because this was a very dark green, but then I lightened it with a blue-green in the border. And the blue-green picks that up all the way through. So as you can see, I have every green you can imagine and then some. Gray-green even. So it does work together overall, and it makes for a very good antique rug. So now I'm just going to quickly talk about the Paisley. We're going to go into Paisleys next month quite in depth. I'm going to take a couple of full Paisleys and tell you how they tell their story. Most Paisleys have green in them. Some are more burgundy, some are more orange, some have more blue. But green is a common denominator within most Paisleys. Okay? So I use Paisley with my greens as my rich accent. Here's a blue green. There's a yellow green. Here's your yellow green. So I use it as an accent. I do use Paisley all the time within my greens. I don't put it in every rug lately, but I do try to put it in most of my rugs. I may put it here and there. It is a rich accent. There is a way to use it. You can over dye Paisleys that are cutters. And we're going to talk about full Paisleys, not to cut them, cutters, and dyeing cutters. And you can dye the Paisley. This is 100% wool. You just have to be careful how the weave is. The weave goes this way. You do not cut this way. You cut with the weave for less fraying. And I'm going to bring in a few antique rugs that have used Paisley and are not fraying. There is a good way to do it. So that's where we'll end. We're going to pick up on Paisleys for next month for April. I hope you all have your corned beef and cabbage ready, your Irish soda bread ready. And yes, I will post my recipe up on my Facebook page again. And I hope you enjoy it. And bye for now.